look out. Here come former SportsCenter anchor Bob Stevens, esteemed basketball coach Rich Basirico, and Hall of Fame sportswriter Curry Kirkpatrick. And someone's going under the bus.
Welcome into the latest edition of Under the Bus, where three old guys throw a whole lot of people under the bus. We'll just keep it a simple explanation. Bob Stevens, formerly of ESPN SportsCenter, Curry Kirkpatrick, Hall of Famer from Sports Illustrated, Rich Basirico, Hall of Famer from high school coaching. We got big stuff to get right into.
We should have a bigger bus, actually.
We might need a bigger bus. Yeah. I mean, we got our three people we got to deal with right here in the first segment of the show. By the way, we're sponsored, speaking of the show, by Hudson's on the docks here on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Fabulous restaurant. If you're coming down here anytime this summer, go over to Hudson's.
Absolutely. Great seafood.
You can actually get oysters out of season because they make their own. What a cool deal that is. All right. Joey Chestnut, speaking of eating, God. Joey Chestnut, Danny Hurley, and Caitlin Clark. I think there is something that brings them all together. What would that
I'm not sure if they're together, but I know they've hijacked the NBA Finals, which has been a total bore for the first two games to me. If you want to talk about Joey, who is one of my heroes.
Let's talk to Joey.
He's the guy that comes on the 4th of July to Nathan's on the boardwalk.
Like Santa Claus.
And eats,
once a year.
And eats against these other competitors and wins every year. He's won it 14 years in a row, I think, every year since 2016. And now he's apparently signed a contract with a competitor of Nathan's. So they're going to say...
It's a plant-based food company.
Yeah.
That's not Nathan's.
It's called Impossible Foods, and it has meatless meat and vegan hot dogs.
Yeah. How good could that be?
He's apparently signed. So Nathan's has said, okay...
It's a hot dog. How bad could it be?
So Nathan's has said, okay, Joe, you can't come. You're not in the contest this year. Which would be, 4th of July without Joey Chestnut is like 4th of July without firecrackers. It's a tragedy to me, and Nathan's have called him. It's an American hero.
Right.
They came out that they gave him $200,000 for his appearance last year, and now you say they've come up with their other contract.
Well, it's 4 years for 1.2. That's $300,000 a year.
It's unbelievable. That's what they say, and Nathan says it's still on the table, and you say Joey has come out and denied that he's signed with this other.
Correct. That's what I heard last night before I went to bed.
So there may not be a Joey Chestnut.
I don't think he's coming.
And is anybody going to watch?
Well, the guy...
I think I will. I want to see who's...
Because that's how it connects to Caitlin Clark. Is anybody going to watch?
Well, they watch for about 20 seconds, and Joey puts about 10 down. But his record is 76 in 10 minutes.
That's crazy.
He set that a few years ago. He's kind of on the down low. Now, it was only 62 in 10 minutes last year. But seriously, they've got to rehire me.
Nathan's is the best hot dog there is. Have you ever had a grilled Nathan's hot dog?
Well, there you go. I'm surprised you aren't there every 4th of July.
Oh my God, they're the best, without a doubt.
I didn't realize we were going to turn this into.
Well, so we go back to Hurley and Caitlin, who have kind of.
And you kind of put that.
Well, they've kind of double dated in the last 2 weeks to hijack the NBA Finals. No, he's talking about the NBA Finals. Just talk about Hurley, of course. Spurning the LA Lakers, and what was their offer? 12, no,
it was
70
million for 6 years.
It's about 11.1.
Yeah.
I've got a couple things to start with.
Yes.
College coaches going to the NBA have been a mixed bag in recent years. We talked before. Billy Donovan had won 2 championships at Florida, and he went to the NBA. And I wonder. That's about 10 years ago. I wonder if he regrets that because he's had mediocre
He's had a chance to go back to college. But, Curry, Billy Donovan is one of the 3 coaches that went from college to the NBA that has a winning record.
In the NBA?
In the NBA. Larry Brown, your boy, is the best because he's the only guy who went from college to the NBA who's won an NBA championship and a college
Popovich coached in college. He coached in college.
Okay, so he's okay. And the other one is Brad Stevens. But there are 12 coaches who've gone from college to the NBA that have losing records. Rick Pitino, losing record. Calipari, losing record. P.J. Clemissimo, losing record.
Jerry Tarkanian, who lasted about 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
But my favorite is kind of an unknown guy named Mike Montgomery.
Yeah, I remember him.
He coached at Stanford. He went to the pros and to the Warriors, and he lasted about 2 seasons. He was fired. He went back to Cal. Coach at Cal. And they asked him, what did you miss about college basketball? And he had 2 words. He said, the eye contact. meaning in the pros, nobody listens to him, nobody watches him, nobody does it.
Absolutely.
And you have a couple stories about NBA guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, college guys. Well, not just what impact do pro coaches have that aren't the best coaches? And you have a funny story.
Well, yeah. Well, another guy, Lon Kruger, who went in, was the Hawks. I was at a Hawks game, kind of down, good seats. Actually, we moved down because no one was there. And he calls a timeout, and 3 of his starters sit on the scorer's table. They don't listen to a word he says, not one word. I had no idea what he was saying.
But none of the 3 were smoking. So he's got that. He had that hold on him.
Well, here's Casey Jones' story.
No, Casey Jones and Bill Russell. So Bill Russell was retired, a commentator, and Casey Jones was the head coach. And they put back
for the Celtics.
With the Celtics, right? And they put a camera into the huddle, kind of.
Right.
And Casey Jones has diagrammed things and saying we got to do this and do this. So then they went to Bill, and they said, Bill, so what do you think what Casey was saying? He goes, well, you have the black line syndrome. And he goes, black line syndrome? What does that mean? He goes, once they cross the sideline, the black line, the sideline, everything he said they forget.
About Casey Jones.
Yeah, but that's how it is in the NBA.
I have another Casey Jones story, and I favored. He's coaching the Celtics. They're in New Orleans. And I had a good friend who was sitting close to the bench. He heard all of this.
Right.
Casey Jones really didn't speak clearly anyway. He kind of mumbled all the time. Remember? So they're having the timeout, and Casey's babbling away at the timeout. The whistle blows, the team goes out in the court, and Casey is yelling, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? And the Celtic looks around and says, we got 24 effing seconds to shoot. That's what we got. That's what we got. So I don't know the impact of these guys. And this is all in Hurley's.
Yeah, I was going to say. So what impact would Hurley have had on the Lakers had he decided
with
to go?
LeBron and Anthony Davis? 0.
And LeBron's son. He didn't want any part of that.
I think Danny knew going in he wasn't going to take that job.
Yeah.
I don't. He's not a West Coast guy. He's a New Jersey guy. He's a New Jersey, New York kind of guy. He's
and you
not
and I talked about this right when it happened. Right. I remember. But my favorite tip-off was, Hurley came back from L.A. on a Saturday, went immediately to a Billy Joel concert in New York. Went to Billy Joel with his wife, and I mean, come on, he's a New York guy. And there's lyrics I'm going to quote from Billy Joel's song. He says, moving on is a chance you take every time. Life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. And the name of that song, of course, is Say Goodbye to Hollywood. And I thought that was a great tip-off.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That is perfect.
You and I want to say this, you and I had this from the jump. I was on the beach when they announced this, the day of the NBA Finals start.
Okay.
That's not an accident. Right. They dropped that. The Lakers want that known. They dropped it to your boy Woj from ESPN, who breaks every story.
Never met the guy.
I think Woj is kind of a tool of the NBA. I mean, he's like a mouthpiece. If you want something out, you give it to Woj, and it becomes a big, Woj bomb. It's a joke. But anyway, I think the Lakers put that out. They wanted that out there. That was the day of the finals. And I remember I was on the beach, and I texted Rich immediately, and I said, there is no way he's going.
That's right.
And Rich agreed with me. There's no way he's taking that job. All this suspense and thing is just total fraud. I mean, he was never going there. I was stunned he took the trip out to L.A.
Well, he wants to bump up his salary, which I hear now he's going to get, I think $50 million for 6 years?
I heard they were only going to about 8.
Okay.
They're going to more than 8 a year.
Okay. Well,
so 8 a year, and the Lakers 11 a year. So that's $3 million.
How much is a guy going to spend?
How much? Yeah, how much can you spend?
I mean,
that's a legitimate
He
way to
says
look
he
at
wants to go to the NBA, but I think it's down the road, like the Knicks or maybe the Celtics.
He'd love to coach the Knicks.
Of
He's
course.
a Madison Square Garden guy.
But he's not an NBA guy. He's not an NBA guy at all. He barks too much. NBA guys can't bark as much as he barks. He barks on every play. You can't do it. He'll train them.
82 games.
Oh, he'll never last.
I don't
think
the money was ever an aspect of this. No. Even though, and everybody notices the Lakers lowball. I mean, it's a lowball. I mean, Monty Williams in Detroit is making like 14 or 15, and they were going to give Hurley 11. If you want your guy, if he's your guy forever, you got to give him maybe part ownership or something like that to get him to go from Connecticut. There, you and I agreed.
Yeah.
No way.
No way.
And I always
So who gets the Lakers job?
That's a great
Now,
question.
while we are doing this podcast, is J.J. Redick and LeBron doing theirs? Are they doing theirs right now?
That's a joke, too. He's never coached before.
Well, that hasn't stopped anybody.
That doesn't stop anybody.
Lakers
In
got
the NBA.
Pat Riley had never coached before. He came in the broadcast booth. I'm not sure JJ wouldn't be a good coach, but the point is, it's an embarrassment for the Lakers. Everybody's talking about that now. It's a total public embarrassment.
JJ might not take it just because he's second on the list now.
Yeah.
Right? He might not. Seriously. All these guys, their egos.
I'm sorry. How do you do a podcast with LeBron if you're the second? Hey, wait a minute.
That's right. That goes.
That
goes under the bus right there.
If I don't get the job, you didn't offer me the job.
Yeah, that
you
goes
offered
under
it.
That goes under the bus.
I would think somebody's got to be throwing somebody under that bus.
I want to point out something that not many of these honks on the TV channels have spoken about this, but the Hurley situation reminds me of Bobby Knight. I don't know why this has been compared, because he's like Bobby Knight. His personality, he's abrasive, he screams and yells at players, he goes after coaches, he goes after fans. Bobby Hurley, as we've said before, is wants to fight guy.
Right.
He challenges fans. You think he's going to do that in the NBA? Come on. I once, when Knight was at his, he won 3 championships in college, and everybody said the NBA was always coming after him every year. I went on 60 Minutes, the TV show, with Dan Rather one time because they were doing a piece on Knight.
Okay.
And they couldn't get a coach or anybody to speak against Knight. And the whole thing was, a conflict, and they wanted a Knight piece and show the other side. So of course they called me because I had done pieces.
Throw Knight out.
Well, like every week, and I'd done pieces on Knight, and so they called me, and Dan Rather interviewed me, and it was just a short interview. But he asked me, how do you think Coach Knight would do in the NBA? Because everybody always talks about this. And I said, well, after about 5 days, I think one of his players would punch him in the face, and that would be the end of that. And I looked at Hurley the same way. It's kind of nasty, but
no, but it's true. He's not an NBA guy. He just
East Coast, Jersey City. They said this was all about his family, and I'm sure it was his dad and mom come to all the games.
Sure,
his wife. I think I think if his dad and mom lived in Beverly Hills, I don't think he'd have taken his job. He's as you say, he's East Coast, he's New York, he's Jersey City. I think he would love to be doing this at Rutgers or Seton Hall, one of these jerseys where he played.
Right.
If he could, and didn't do it at Connecticut. He'd be. I have a fun. One more thing, and I don't want to make this personal, but I never knew Bobby Hurley. Danny. I knew his brother, who of course is a great star at Duke, and I'd met his dad a long time ago. But I'd never met him. I never saw him. Never was with him. 2 years ago in the Bahamas tournament, this was before Connecticut went on their 2-year run. It was the year they started. I was in, they have a little press conference after the games at the Bahamas tournament. There were only a couple national writers there. It was me, and I'm not even writing. I'm retired. I'm just there to watch it. I'm sitting there with Leslie Visser from CBS and Dick Weiss, who's a famous basketball writer from New York. And the 3 of us are sitting. Danny comes in, never seen him before, and he looks over and he says, whoa, he says, Visser, Weiss, Curry Kirkpatrick, Sports Illustrated. He said, this must be big time. Well, I was so flattered. So I've loved Bobby Hurley from then on.
You mean Danny?
I get him all confused. And I went up afterward and talked to him, and he said, I've been reading you for years. It's a pleasure to meet. It was unbelievable. I'd never met this guy, and he'd always been a villain because he's on the Hurley side of the family, which is coordinated with Duke. And so I've loved him ever since.
So did he ask you?
He did.
I'm going to take this off the Colbert. I've been watching over the last few days the Colbert questionnaire.
Oh yeah.
And one of the questions he always asks me: did he ask you for an autograph? Did you ask him for an autograph?
No,
Is there any of that?
No.
But you know what's interesting about Hurley? Look, his run has been terrific. These last 2 years have been outstanding, amazing. But prior to that, the first 4 years at Connecticut. 1 year they didn't even make the NCAA playoffs, and the other 3 years they didn't get past the first round. So now all of a sudden he's had 2 great runs. Outstanding, terrific. But now his name's at the top of the list in college basketball.
Players, you're a coach. Players.
You have to have players without a doubt.
And he's got players again this year. He went to Portland, got the great guard out of St. Mary's, Mahoney, and he got center from Michigan named Reed.
Right. He's got one of his better players coming back.
Yeah, so he's all set.
Yeah, he has a chance to win it again, which would be unbelievable.
And that probably was in his thinking to make.
Without a doubt.
Sure
he wants to try to win
but
3.
I'm still, I'm like you. He's going to stay in the Northeast. He would love to coach the Knicks. I'm sure that's, and when the Knicks get tired of Thibodeau, which is going to be probably next week, he's going to be the next guy in New York.
He probably will be, but I think it's a mistake on his part. But they can always go back. How many of these guys who've gone to the NBA have come back to college? Yeah. Billy Donovan could go back to college anytime he wants to. But seriously, there's 12 guys with losing records who've gone from college to pro. Only 3 that I'm aware of: Brown, Donovan, Stevens, and
Popovich has won a few games.
Well, where
in
did
the
Popovich coach in college?
He coached under Larry Brown. I think he might have coached with Larry at Kansas under.
Oh, is that right?
He was an assistant. Probably we should change that head to him, but he was an assistant.
Okay.
And Chuck Daly was an assistant at Duke. And went to the NBA, won several championships with the Pistons.
True. Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys with college backgrounds.
He was head of Penn, wasn't he? The head of Penn?
Yeah, he was.
That's right.
So there's another guy. Check your record.
Okay. So there's more than have failed.
Well, for sure. Somebody who's kind of won and failed is Caitlin Clark. Well, can we talk about her again?
I was gonna do it after the break, but let's do it now. Let's do it now. Caitlin Clark does not make the Olympic team. Oh my God, the hue and cry over all of that. Should she be on the?
Well, Bob,
Olympic team?
when we text one another, I said she should be on it, and then you said I don't necessarily think so, and then I started thinking about it and reading some more, and maybe not, because there are 12 girls absolutely who have proven themselves. Maybe not.
I'm on the other side. There are probably 20 players that are better than Caitlin Clark now. But I think this was a missed opportunity. I think it's shameful, by the way. I think this was a missed opportunity. And I hate to say this, but Caitlin Clark to me is bigger than the WNBA as of now. She's bigger than women's basketball. And I think, like you said prior to when we were on, they didn't want this circus at the Olympics around Caitlin Clark. But I think they should. I mean, if they're trying to grow the game, if Caitlin Clark was on this team, no matter if she played or not, they're going to watch and just to get her in the game. And they keep talking about, well, the first priority is winning. Well, they're going to win the gold medal, okay? I mean, our women are, there have been some close games in the last Olympics, but, the 12th woman, which is what she'd be, is not going to affect winning or losing. And everybody says, well, who's she going to replace? Who's she replace? I got a name who she replace. Diana Taurasi. Diana Taurasi's 42 years old. Happy birthday the other day. But her numbers are worse than Caitlin's this year. She's 42. She's probably the 12th woman. But she was at the forefront of these older WNBA players who questioned Caitlin, said that the physicality is going to bother her. She's not going to have as quick success. Let's get it straight. This is an old girls society. The committee is made up of I don't want to call them old women, but former women players, former women coaches. Dawn Staley's on it, who coaches South Carolina. These are all former, and it's a girls' club. I want to say, if they were men, they call them an old boys' club. Right. It's an old girls' club, and it's politics. It's always been politics. Sure. They left, who was it, Candace Parker off the Olympics in '76. You told me that wasn't politics for some reason?
Right.
And now this is politics. Well, if she replaces Diana Taurasi, isn't going to make the difference whether we win or lose.
Not at all.
And I just think it was a missed opportunity to get more headlines for women's basketball because they're trying to grow the game, and I would have put her on.
Because all the headlines now are going to be negative. Watch the women play. But Caitlin's not there. Well, and she's still going to be the story, even though she's not even there.
And I think they've learned that, but they've also come out and said, "Oh, she's at the top of the list." If someone gets hurt,
somebody might get hurt.
Well, that's probably going to happen. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. I prefer what Lisa Leslie, another great former WNBA player, said. She said this in April before any of this happened. She said Caitlin was already one of the best players in the world, and she said we should not leave the country without her. I mean, that's a pretty strong statement from Lisa Leslie.
Yeah, that is strong.
All right.
For sure.
Under the Bus, brought to you by Hudson's. We'll be right back. We still got tennis. We still got the NBA Finals and the NHL Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, and we haven't even talked about them. And the U.S. Open golf tournaments this week. We've got to have a couple of picks on that
when we come
back.
Scotty Scheffler Invitational.
Yes. We'll get to cricket in just a minute because that's obviously huge too.
Does Caitlin Clark play cricket?
She could.
Should.
It probably could.
Probably should. Yeah.
Really quick before we get to the hoops and the hockey, French Open tennis, something you're well familiar with. Carlos Alcaraz wins his another Grand Slam. I saw a quick news nugget. Speaking of Olympics, he and Rafa Nadal are going to play doubles together
in the
for
Olympics.
Spain in the Olympics.
Which is going to be at
That might
Roland
draw a
Garros.
few eyes. That'll draw a few eyes in Paris.
Which will be right at Roland Garros where they play the French Open.
Go.
I was going to move on to some stories about that I have because I did the French Open for years.
Yeah.
Well, I want to point out, everybody says that Alcaraz is going to be the new and try to what's his name? I can't remember his name. Nadal. Rafa has 14 of these things, and this is Alcaraz's first. And they say, well, he's going to be the next.
Well, don't they always do
Rafa,
that with whoever wins?
Well, I think the next Rafa might be the winner of the women's championship, Iga Swiatek.
Okay.
And she's won now 4 French Opens, 3 straight.
Wow.
And she's dominating the game. I think we can say that. It's got a couple problems. She's from Poland, which is nobody ever from Poland, won big time in tennis. And her name is a problem. I think Iga is such an ugly name. I mean, they're chanting sometimes, Iga, it just sounds wrong. It sounds bad. I think if her name was Sasha or Sage.
You wanted to change her name now?
Summer Swiatek. If her name is Summer Swiatek, wouldn't that be good?
Well, anyway. Text her and let her know to change her name.
Well, Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova.
Navratilova was a problem for a while too. It took us a while to learn that one.
Exactly.
You had to teach us that.
Well, Chris has won 7 French Opens. Of course, the 2 of them presented Iga the trophy. And last year, Chris presented her trophy. This year, Martina was going to present. She insisted that Chris come up with it. It was really, really a wonderful scene. It was a great scene. And I go back with these 2 a long time. And you have a Martina story, right?
I do. You want me to go first?
Sure, yeah, bring that in.
So when I was at Hilton Head Prep as athletic director, I received a phone call.
Bring on Hilton Head, where we are.
Hilton Head Prep, right, on Hilton Head. I've received a phone call from an agent who said, I'm the agent for Navratilova. I said, well, how can I help? She said, well, she needs a basketball. I said, what? She goes, well, she'd like to use your gym. She wants to work out and get, and so her and Nancy Lieberman played one-on-one full court. And Martina needed a basketball. They couldn't go out to Walmart and buy one for $20. So he said, well, if she gives you a basketball, she'll give you an autograph. I said, well, I don't really want an autograph.
Oh, Rich.
I said that. So I said, how about could you give my daughter a tennis racket? No, I don't think we can do that. I said, are you kidding me? He said, no, I don't think. I said, okay.
Negotiating with Navratilova.
So I was with the agent. So when she comes by, I give her a basketball, but I sign it. I signed my name on the basketball and gave it to our agent to give it Navratilova.
So
never happened.
When Navratilova is on with Colbert and he does the questionnaire,
there it is.
She'll have to tell the story that she got this basketball.
And so she played with it and brought it back.
Well, she did. She did.
She did. Rack.
No, I couldn't use it anymore because my name was on the thing. So but they went hard. They went one-on-one full court in our gym, going after each other.
Martina and
Nancy Lieberman. Because Nancy was training her at that time.
She also became her lover. So
is that right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Martina and I had, of course, a mixed relationship because I had to write about these people all the time, and I wrote the negative and the positive. And I did some great stuff on Martina. In 1984, she won the French Open, and it was her 4th slam in a row. And they didn't call it the Grand Slam because it was over 2 years, but they did call it the Martina Slam. And we had her on the cover, and it was a great moment for Martina.
Which is where, and we'll give you credit for this, where the Tiger Slam was first done was by Martina.
Exactly, right, 4 in a row.
And that's why they called it the Tiger Slam.
Good move to get golf in here. So meanwhile, Martina, so I'm in a press gallery, and she's winning these matches. She's won the championship, and I'm doing the story. And of course, there's no internet, there's no cell phone, there's no thing to get information, and I couldn't figure out Martina's mom and dad were there to see her for the first time right? From Czechoslovakia. First time they'd seen her in a Grand Slam, and I didn't know their names. So I put Martina's parents, Ozzie and Harriett. Remember, Ozzie and Harriett, for all our younger listeners, was a great sitcom going way back. But Ozzie and Harriett. So I said Ozzie and Harriett, and then I put TK. Well, TK in New York meant check the information, get it right, get it accurate. We don't have it yet.
Right.
Well, the magazine thought I was making a funny line, and it appeared in the magazine like that. Martina's parents, Ozzie and Harriett. So
she wasn't happy with
it. I believed it.
No, the rest of the season.
I think I did when I read that story. Yeah.
The rest of the season, the girls all told me she was infuriated. She never talked to me again. She was really mad. Of course, I didn't know, and I wanted to explain it to her. Never saw her. She never gave me a chance to talk to her.
Right.
So now it's about 10 years later. And we're at the Family Circle Cup, a tournament on Hilton Head where we live. And my daughter was about 10, and I took Chelsea, who's a tennis player, going to be a junior player. All these women were heroines of her. Sure. We went down the Family Circle, and I'm walking down the lane. It was an off day. There's hardly anybody around. Walking down the path, and here comes Martina. And I'm with my daughter, and I'm going, oh, my God. The
moment of truth.
Yeah. I haven't seen her since Ozzie and Harriett. And she comes up, it's about 5 feet away. I say, Martina, hi. And she said, Curry. And she looked down and she saw Chelsea. And she said, oh, who is this little one? Oh, she has her tennis dress, she's got her racket. She must be. And she just, went crazy over my daughter. And it was just a great moment. Never said anything.
Right.
And we said goodbyes, and Martina signed a ball, and she got some shirts and caps for Chelsea.
Oh,
it was
nice.
unbelievable. So I said, well, it's as wonderful that she forgets this. 2014, I go to the French Open again on an off day. I just go as a spectator, and I get a press pass. This is 40 years.
40 years after the Martina.
From Ozzie and Harriett. 40 years. Okay. And here comes Martina again. It's just me and her, and she comes up 5 feet away. And I look up and I say, hi, Martina. And she stares me daggers, doesn't even say anything, brushes past me, walks past. I can't believe it. I look around, and we're 10 feet away, and I see, Martina, it's Curry. Martina Navratilova looks at me and says, still an a-hole. And so I said, wait, Martina, 40 years, still an a-hole. And she walked around and left. True story. Unbelievable. So
she's like her parents being called Ozzie and Harriet. Huh?
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't know I don't know where we go from that.
Well, I can top it with one Chris Evert story, okay? Just one quick.
Go ahead. You're on a roll.
Chris, again, I did stories on her for years. We were talking last week about Walton was probably the closest athlete I ever got to. Chris was right up there. I mean, she was the closest woman athlete, certainly, because I'd done stories on her for years. She did her retirement piece for us on the cover of SI. She would come to Hilton Head, the Family Circle.
You had to come to our school.
She came to Hilton Head Prep, and I had her
spoke to the kids.
And so it was, I really knew her well. So I'm doing a story on her late in her career about her coming on the downward track of losing to people, and she just wanted to get back to Andy Mill and get back to him in the hotel, who she later married and had the 2 sons with. So I didn't write about that, but I was hunting around for the night. So I looked in my attic 5 years ago. This was just 5 years ago. I looked in my attic, and I find a letter. Actually, it was a note handwritten from Chris to me.
Okay.
And I forgot about this totally. I'd forgotten and put it in the attic a long time, and here I'm reading it. It says, Curry, I understand you've been pumping people about my friendship with, and I'm staring at the note, and I can't even believe this. And she said, this friendship is a very good one, and it shouldn't be highlighted in any of your stories. I'd appreciate it. I know you're above that. Well, the name was Donald Trump.
Oh, boy.
I looked at this, I could not, because I totally forgot. Because in those days, Chrissy was all over dating everybody, Burt Reynolds, Jack Ford, Donald Trump.
Did she date Donald Trump?
Well, that's what it was, quote, that's what she said, quote, friendship. Oh. And she said, this friendship doesn't need to be spoken about to you, and all the girls were telling me about this deal she had with Donald Trump. So I didn't, and I never wrote that. I never wrote it. But it wasn't because of the letter was sent, but I forgot about it. And I've got that baby framed.
What you say? I tell you what. Well, what do we say about the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals? After that, I don't know how we can compete, but we're going to try, and we'll also talk a little cricket when we come back. Under the Bus, presented by Hudson's. All right, Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals are continuing. So far, they've both been snoozers. Yeah. Home team won both games, both up 2-0. Right. Now we switch venues. Does it get any more interesting?
Well, Rich has got an under-the-bus character.
Throw somebody under the bus as we go to Game 3.
For Dallas. He's second best player on their team, and he's not delivering.
Kyrie Irving.
Does he deliver in Game 3 and start to?
Well, he better. If they have any kind of chance,
he
has to deliver. Since he's come back, since he's left Boston, and has played Dallas, and he's never won against Boston. Yeah. When he plays,
not one game.
No,
right?
not one game.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned about the crowd. He's played in the NBA long enough for the crowd. What effect? He just hasn't delivered. And Boston, we mentioned this last time. They have so much more depth. They're a better team. They're deeper, and they can defend. Different guys can get on him and defend.
Are they still better if they don't have Porzingis?
Well, we're talking about this.
I still think so. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about this on a Wednesday.
Yes.
So Game 3 is tonight.
Right.
And Porzingis is probably out maybe for 3 and 4.
Maybe.
And he's been such a factor, especially on defense, because there's some statistics. So Celtics shots in the paint when Porzingis is off the floor is like 70%.
Okay.
And when he's on the floor, it's like 35%.
Yeah. Well, he's long.
And that's a huge difference.
Right.
I'm predicting a Dallas blowout tonight. I don't know about you.
You think Dallas?
I think they'll blow them out at home, yeah. But do you think Kyrie's really been
he hasn't been a factor.
But Rich, he was a former Celtic. He's hated there. The crowd is on him constantly. You don't think that's in his head a little bit? I mean, I know he's a veteran.
It's probably a little bit in his head.
He's the guy that gave the finger to the crowd when he came back with the Nets, the Celtics. He, as we said, he put sage around the court to ward off the demons. I mean, he's crazy, first of all.
But Boston's defense is, I mean, they've stepped up. People kept on saying, well, every team Boston's played, they've had a player hurt. They're still the better team. I mean, even those other teams, they didn't, well, they blew some teams out, but they always let one team win a game. Do you know what I mean?
Game 2.
Yeah, Game 2. This is going to be Game 3 because Dallas knows if they have any chance, they have to win tonight.
Well, that's why I'm calling.
I think it's a good call. I think
you get the same thing out of Edmonton going home after playing in Florida and losing twice in Florida and not looking particularly good. But man, the home crowd will be stoked in Edmonton for Game 3 and 4, and we'll see where that goes.
Can I give my experience with the NHL Finals?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know nobody
Stanley
cares.
Cup Finals.
Nobody cares, but
rarely reported on by Curry Kirkpatrick, but there was one.
And Florida can't win. I mean, that's the Sunshine State. How can a hockey team from Florida win? Come on.
Shouldn't, but yes.
Well, this goes back to, again, a Dallas Stars against the New Jersey Devils played in the NHL Finals, and ESPN had the games.
Right.
Had the games. So I was working for ESPN doing features. So
they do now.
Well, but it was during the...
But ESPN has the
during
games.
The games. And off as a pregame thing, they'd show a feature. Well, I did a few of them, and I did one on Ken Danico, who was an all-time defenseman for the Devils. Played his entire career, 14 years or maybe closer to 20, with the Devils. Nobody does that.
No.
And he was like their tough guy. Mm-hmm. And my producer, whose name was Andy Tennant at ESPN, was a real hockey guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew all these players. He covers them all during the year. And he said, hockey players will say anything. They're the greatest. They're the greatest athletes to talk to because they'll say anything. They also have the best girlfriends, the best wags. But Danico came in and sat down. We were doing the story was about him being a tough guy and all this. And all of a sudden, On camera, he pulls out his teeth and start talking about his teeth. I mean, I about fell off my chair. And Andy was ready for this, so he had the whole thing. But so that's one of the things I did. We did another.
Only the hockey players can do that.
Yeah.
You know, they have that edge over every other sport.
I know.
They can always, when in doubt, take out your teeth.
Golfers don't do that.
Golfers don't do that.
An opposite subject we did another piece on was young love, because the Dallas team, one of their star players who was very old at the time was 40, named Guy Carbonneau, who's in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And he's a French Canadian. He had a gorgeous daughter named Mary Ann. I think her name, no, Anne Marie. I got it backwards. Her name was Anne Marie.
French.
She was in high school. Mm-hmm. She was dating a rookie on the Dallas Stars. And so her boyfriend and her father, his name was Brendan Morrow, who became a great player for Dallas, his rookie year. Her father and her boyfriend were on the same team. That's a story.
Really?
That's a great story.
She was a high school student?
High school. She's still in high school. But she looked like she was about 25.
Okay.
And Brendan Morrow was just 21. So, so the difference was like 3 or 4 years. It wasn't big. But and it was a real romance. I mean, it wasn't just, they were steadies, as we say. So
Used to say,
we said immediately, we're going to do that story.
Oh, sure.
Well, we went down there to do it, and the NHL said, no, you're not doing the story. This is not a good look. Even though it's a great look. I mean, it's a great look. For fans, this is not a good look for the NHL. We have an old guy and his daughter dating his teammate. And they didn't like it either. The father did not like playing with his boyfriend. No, he didn't even like the guy. And so Carbonneau, who didn't speak great English, he refused to be interviewed. Brendan Morrow refused to be interviewed. They all refused, except the coach, who was Ken... Great.
Oh, yeah.
Ken
Hitchcock.
He was the coach. He loved this story. So he went on camera, and all the teammates went on camera. We had a great story even without the two parties.
Story. Cool.
But the great thing is, and the NHL did not want us to do this. We got in really a lot of trouble for doing this. But so we said we got to get Anne Marie. And so we stealthily, because she didn't want to be interviewed for this, the family told us, no, out of bounds, off bounds. So Andy said, no, that's bullshit. So we went to a game. We got Anne. We went really early. We got her outside. We talked to her. Said, "Look, we just want to do a few questions. Answer you talk about your boyfriend and your dad and how this is at home. And great story. This is unbelievable."
Right.
So she said, "Well, okay." And she's absolutely stunning. And she had on this short mini skirt and these heels that walked down. So Andy said, "Look, you're going to talk to her at the top of the ramp outside, and I'm going to shoot you and her talking as you come down the ramp." Well, he first shot her coming down.
Of course.
And that's, we talked to him. It was a great piece with that. But we led the piece with this photo, this video of her walking down. And she walked down it like it was the red carpet.
Sure.
And that's the way we began the piece.
Yeah.
Well, we got this piece, and we almost got thrown out of it. Our camera crew and me and Andy almost got thrown out of the Stanley Cup for doing this piece. It was hysterical, but it was great. But it was wonderful. That's the kind of thing that you don't get in any other sport, just hockey.
You can probably find that on YouTube, where I'm going to suggest you also go to learn about cricket. There actually is a YouTube video. It's about 3 minutes long that really explains cricket very well, because I don't know. I mean, I don't think any of us really knows the second thing about cricket. We might know the first thing, but we don't know the second thing. While the cricket is going on, watch the 3-minute video, and you'll actually have a half-decent idea of what the heck they're doing. Because as we tape this right now, the U.S. is playing India.
And nobody's watching.
It'll take. I mean, it'll take them all day, but because of the style, the format that they're playing under, it'll at least be over today. It's not going to be one of these 6-day things. The U.S. beats Pakistan, one of the great powers. If they beat India, I mean, this is way past. Do you believe in miracles? Al Michaels.
My head will blow off.
Yeah.
But to get back. Just one more story. To get back to Anne Marie, to get away from your favorite sport, cricket.
It is.
And get back to Anne Marie and Brendan. I got one more thing.
All right.
I remember this
I thought
now.
you were done.
Brendan, wouldn't talk to us, the player.
Right.
Well, we ambushed, you're a TV guy.
Yeah.
We interviewed him outside the locker room. He came out one day. We were at the parking lot ready for him. He came over to his car. He came over to his car. I ran up to him, had the mic, had the camera crew running. He was about to get in his car. And I got a mic, and I shoved it in his face. I said, Brendan, Curry Kirkpatrick of ESPN, we want to talk to you about Anne Marie and, your future father-in-law, Guy, your teammate. And he looked at me, gave me this incredible dirty look, and he said, I don't want to talk about that. We told you that. And I said, well, how is it playing with Guy? He said, it's fine, it's okay. And he literally pushed me out of the way, slammed the door basically on my arm. It was hysterical. It was fun.
When if he was really a good sportsman, all he had to do was 3 words. Ozzie and Harriett.
That would have been perfect.
Well, the outcome of this story is Brendan and Anne-Marie were married. 2 years later, they got married. They have 2 or 3 kids. His family.
Everything's working out.
You talk about the internet. Go on the internet and look for photos of Anne-Marie. They'll be there.
Okay.
Because she's still a party girl. You can see her still partying.
All right, we're pretty much out of time and almost out of subjects. U.S. Open golf this week. Scotty Scheffler coming off another win.
Amazing.
His 5th already this year. At Jack's Place last week, where he didn't necessarily play particularly well, but he played well enough to win. John Rahm is out
with a foot
problem. Rory McIlroy is in and now has karma back on his side because he has made up with his wife.
Is that right?
Yes, they're back together.
I'm looking at Anne-Marie and Brendan Morrow, and this totally.
Your mind was on Anne-Marie.
So they got back.
Erica and Rory are back together.
What about the golf announcer who supposedly was?
This is an NBC event this week, so we won't know. Amanda's CBS. So it'll be
So how do you think
next week.
How do you think he'll play?
You know what? I think golf karma is real. I think he'll play better. I think he's got a shot. I think he'll be there.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Why is the U.S. Open putting McIlroy, Scheffler, and Morikawa together on the first day? They're going to play the first 2 rounds together.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to be watching anybody else? Why did they do that?
Well, because they do that.
Their gallery will be unbelievable.
They do that. You remember the year when Tiger won in when he beat Rocco in the playoff.
Mediate.
He played the first 2 days with Phil. It was Tiger and Phil in the same group.
And how was that?
Usually they kept them apart.
That's what I mean. This is amazing.
But doesn't it bring the best out of you when you put the best guys together? Doesn't it bring the best out of you? As a golfer, I
think with the crowd thing, it's a distraction. I don't think it helps either one of them because it's
or the 3 of them. Morikawa will beat both of them the first day.
Because he probably will.
First day.
And that'll mess up the dynamic. People are always moving in golf. The fans are.
Well, speaking of moving,
so you don't want to play in front, particularly in front of them. And you really don't want to play behind them either. You want to be as far apart from them as you can be if you think you're going to.
Well, how about this controversy? I got a question for you. That came up in the last couple of weeks. Speaking of moving, the cameras, those cameras that fly in the sky, what do they call it?
The drones.
The drones.
Yes.
CBS apparently has the best drone technology.
They're good.
And you remember this? Whoever won the tournament, was it 2 weeks ago?
McIntyre in Canada.
McIntyre, the Scotsman, complaining that the drones are too close to me and they buzz apparently.
Yeah, they do.
And NBCs apparently don't buzz as much. Is that true? That's what I read.
That I don't know, and it'll be interesting.
Jim Nance came away and blew the Scotsman away. He said, "Hey, you got to put on your big boy pants. This is the big time." What is Jim Nance talking about? I mean, if I was a golfer and a drone is buzzing on my head,
but Jim Nance is protecting CBS.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's who writes his checks.
But if you were a golfer, you're a golfer.
Yeah.
Would a drone above your head probably not make any difference?
Yes, it wouldn't make any difference in my game.
It might help.
Yes, it would bother me. But yes, I would understand. That's what I got to put up with. This is I would like to play with no gallery either, but they're here.
Bob, this was the first PGA guy that I'd read about that complained about this. Why do you think McIntyre complained? He won the tournament, first of all.
Yeah, he's young.
And he's a Scot.
He's a Scot. He's not an American player. He's a foreign-born player. So they don't have that as much over there.
Yeah.
He plays a lot over here now.
Yeah,
he's on the tour.
He plays every week.
But, he hadn't played well enough to have the drones fly over him.
The drone isn't
That's probably the first time right.
The drone isn't anywhere near.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the thing that has been interesting in golf is now what they call the walk and talks.
That's really neat. And guys always make shots too.
But they do absolutely. I as a person who's been close to it, they do nothing for me because the guys don't say anything. I mean, nobody.
Yes, they do, Bob. They say they've got an upcoming shot. They ask them, "How are you going to play the shot?" And he
They do
explains
that.
it.
They
I
do
think
do
that's
that.
kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think in basketball, when they interview the coaches during
Like the quarters.
I think that's awful.
Well, and how about
what coach wants to speak to those people? They want to get in the huddle and talk to their players who don't listen anyway.
Who was it in baseball last week? They had a mic on him,
and he made an error.
He made a total error right there while he's wearing the mic.
Yeah, they had a third baseman. Yeah, that's why they usually mic the outfielders.
Yeah.
They mic the third baseman, and he makes an error while he's mic'd.
Well, so it's going to be harder for us to do it, but I think we're doing it. We're throwing the drones under the bus.
Ooh.
Is that a?
I guess we are. Although
I like them.
I really do like them. I think the perspective they give you is so much better, and that's all good stuff. We have gone way heavy this week. Yeah, so we apologize, although I don't think you're going to think we should apologize because it was good stuff. We want to thank Hudson's for sponsoring us. For Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick, I'm Bob Stevens. We're going to load manage next week. We're going to take a week off. And then we'll be back. We don't want to be playing too many minutes.
Oh, beach time.
Beach time for you. Yeah, he'll be on the beach.
There you go.
You might see him with the whales.
And Rich will be on a cruise.
Rich will be on a cruise.
Let's explain the reason we're off.
With the grandkids.
There you
Too
go.
bad.
And we'll be back to throw some other people under the bus.
Under the Bus is a production of the Loco Media Network and is filmed on the Hilton Head Island campus of the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. The executive producer is Justin Jarrett, with assistance from Trey Ramsey, Mahogany Hickman, and Adam Carroll.